My guess? You've been sitting around surfing the internet more than usual lately. Did you know? As the coronavirus crisis drags on, hackers still work hard trying to steal your data and your personal information. Are you sure your browsing history and identity are protected? I've been a NordVPN customer long before they sponsored this show. Their software allows me to safely browse the internet without being traced. NordVPN's encryption hides your location and encrypts all the data, whether you're sending or receiving. And today, we have a special Christmas offer. When you sign up with promo code Sonnen, you are going to get 68% off, a 2-year plan, and 4 additional months for free. There's nothing to lose. Try NordVPN risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to nordvpn.org/Sonnen or click on the link in the description to get this special offer. Again, nordvpn.org/Sonnen.
Khabib Nurmagomedov loves Dustin Poirier. I don't know if they got a relationship here or if Khabib just respected Dustin in the cage. I don't know what happened there. But Khabib is giving his absolute blessing to Dustin Poirier. I mean, to one guy, he picked one guy, he's given everything to Dustin. All the way back, if you guys remember, 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, when Khabib comes out and says, you want to fight me, beat Dustin. Whoever does it. I don't care, Tony or Connor, or that. You beat Dustin, I get in there with you. And Khabib is a man of his word. I mean, that was a big statement. That was a very big statement for a hopeful guy at 155. You don't have to turn your cannons all to Dustin Poirier. So it's just one of these things. And now Khabib's come out and he said that the guy most likely to pick up the belt that he's leaving behind is Dustin Poirier. I don't know if you guys would agree with that based on what our eyes showed us. I don't know that our eyes even told us what a hard fight Dustin was for Khabib. I mean, it looked like Al Iaquinta was one of the harder fights that Khabib's ever had, followed by Conor McGregor, who's the only guy to win a round against Khabib. I only bring that to you because perhaps we all need to go and rewatch that fight, and perhaps it was a really hard match. Khabib sure left there with a level of respect, which I think Dustin should feel great about. It just doesn't stop me from asking the question, where did that come from? Did these guys know each other and he also happens to like him? I mean, it's almost like this personal thing where Khabib is such a favor to Dustin Poirier, so much praise. Right? Praise from the champion, from the greatest the division's ever seen, possibly the sport. Compliment. And I will tell you one thing when you're looking at Khabib. He found a way to weaponize pace. It's one of the reasons, if not the only and predominant reason, that Khabib GSP would have been so fascinating. You have to ask yourself right out of the gate, when Khabib gets an opponent, can that opponent hold up? Can he be here at the end of the night? When the end of the fight comes, we're 23 minutes in, is that guy still going to be here? And very few athletes can weaponize pace, and in many sports, you don't need to. Take LeBron, by example, basketball. You wouldn't need to weaponize pace. There's just enough breaks. There's another team that comes in, there's a halftime. There's just a lot of ways where putting that good hard pace on a guy just isn't going to break him mentally. Just not going to have the chance. Football, in large part, is that same way. Over 4 hours, there's 7 minutes of action. There's just not that chance to crack a guy, to break him mentally, make him decide I want to do something else. In some sports. The guy who made this famous, though, the guy who really showed the world that fatigue makes a coward out of anybody, is a guy named Dan Gable, and I just saw Dan Gable on my television set because he just received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Dan Gable, to go back, incredible wrestling story. And he was Iowa State, where he went. When he wrestled, Division I eligibility was good for 3 years. So you'll hear about a 4-time national champion, things along these lines, 4-time All-American. It wasn't even an option back then. Back then, you did a red shirt for your freshman year. You came right into a sophomore, junior, so you could do 3. You go freshman, sophomore, sit 1, come back for a seat. But you understand my point where you get 3. So he was a 2-time national champion going for his 3rd. But in that time frame, that would have been the same as going and being a 4-time national champion. I just want to make it relevant to you guys that you understand. Back then, you could only go 3. He went 3. So he's completely undefeated. He's won the Nationals. He came back. He won the Nationals again. He has a completely undefeated season. He gets into the finals with a guy named Larry Owens. Now, this story is a great story, but it's also been a little bit personal for me because my fourth grade teacher was Mrs. Owens, married to Larry Owens. Larry Owens lives right now to this day, 10 miles from where I'm sitting, who's a shop teacher at Canby High School, retired. His wife was a fourth grade teacher. I had her, Mrs. Owens. His nephew, Andy, and I rode the school bus together and were teammates in wrestling. So just say kind of one of these things where I guess I know the Owens family. So Dan Gable, completely undefeated, ends up with Owens in the finals, his final match. Going to ride off into the sunset of his collegiate career. He loses the match. Sure, you could have guessed that coming. One and only match he ever loses, a major upset, and he loses to Owens, who wrestled for Washington, who doesn't even have a program anymore. So Gable regroups, refines himself, goes and makes the Olympic team, goes on and wins an Olympic gold medal. But what Dan Gable was most known for, it was not a technique. There's no move named after him. Things like this where you have these great athletes. What he did is he turned pace into a weapon. He would be out there in position, pushing and pulling and firing so many attacks that his opponent would get exhausted and eventually fall down and or give up. And while you think that's a hard thing to do, you would be right, but he was doing this on the world and Olympic stage. By the time you get to the world or Olympic championships, each country has now sent their champion. Nobody is in the bracket of a world or Olympic game that wasn't the national champion for their own country. So you got some studs out there, and he would get them so tired, they quit. They would quit. It was no longer about technique. He would have them exhausted. And he used to train 7 days a week, 7 hours a day. Now, those times are long gone. Nobody would be foolish enough to train 7 days a week. We now understand rest. But they didn't understand rest back then, and his entire athletic career was over at the age of 23. I bring that to you because a younger guy could get away with that for a period of time. Eventually, he's going to grind himself down. You're going to have diminishing returns. You're going to get worse. You're going to get weaker. But at that youthful age, and he was very youthful, he could get away with it. And none of the rest of his teammates trained that way. Nobody trained 7 days a week. Never even heard of such a thing. Training on Sunday, right? It just doesn't happen. And how do you practice for 7 hours? What coach is, hey, we got a workout, be here at noon. You'll be free at 7 p.m. Like, what? But he didn't have coaches that were doing it. The coaches were running structured workouts. He just wouldn't leave the room. He would say, find something to do. Whether it was sprints or drilling with a partner or jumping rope or lifting weight, he'd stay there for 7 hours. So we got in this incredible physical condition, but he is the athlete. He is the first athlete. He is the one who showed the world that fatigue will make a coward out of any man, that technique can come in second, that strategy can come in second, that pacing in combat comes in first. And it's one of those things that we have seen in MMA. We saw George St-Pierre do it. On a different level, we saw Randy Couture do it at heavyweight. Randy Couture was the first world-class athlete to really get involved in MMA. There was almost an honor in MMA at one time, believe this or not, of being a street fighter. The more tattoos you had, the better you were at MMA. The shorter you could shave your hair, the better you were at MMA. The meaner you were to people around town, the better you were for MMA. This was an actual belief. This was a thing. The crazier shirts you could wear and the more profanity you could use, the higher your ranking would be in MMA. This was a thing. And Randy was the first guy to come over that had Olympic and world aspirations. And he took that same kind of training, sleep, nutrition, tape watching, strategy that he had done in wrestling and brought it over to MMA. But he also put a pace on guys. He would just get them tired, particularly at heavyweight. They just simply could not keep up with him. So we have seen this, but outside of Randy, which passed it to George St-Pierre, who passed it to Khabib, I don't know a whole lot of athletes who have made that a defining statement of their careers. Possibly a part of it. Possibly making sure they could defend themselves at all times. But to put a higher pace on your opponent by strategy to break him mentally and thus wear him down physically ties back to Dan Gable. And I must disclose for you, I don't fully know what the Presidential Medal of Freedom is there to represent or honor, but I know that he got one. I know it was an honor. That's the Dan Gable story in case you missed it. And to Coach Gable, for me, a big congratulations.